back to TRU Talks, and usually we do these a little bit later in the week to build up to the weekend's action, but we're kicking off Monday by recording our latest episode, and as you can see, I am delighted to say I'm joined all the way from Japan by Hadleigh Parkes. So Hadleigh, welcome to Talking Rugby Union, and thanks so much this morning, but this evening for you for giving us your time, and we'll of course be reflecting on Wales' Six Nations campaign a little bit later on with Hadleigh. But first things first, Hadleigh, how's life in Japan for you at the moment? It seems like you're really enjoying your time over there.
Cheers, Chris. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, it's going really well, thank you. Family's really enjoying it. Wife and daughter have really settled in. Life's been good. Like the club's been fantastic, and getting us all sorted out with daycare, swimming lessons, and just getting us settled into life in Japan and a different culture and immersing ourselves in that. It's been amazing. So really enjoying it. And most days are sunny as well, which always helps. So it's quite nice just going to training every day, and it's nice and sunny, but can get quite cold. But enjoying it. Good bunch of boys, and good management group. So really enjoying it. Thank you.
Yeah, we said just before we press record, Hadleigh asked where I'm based, and it's Manchester, and it's cloudy, gloomy, and we're hopefully spring just around the corner, so we could do with a bit of sunshine. But glad it's going well. Glad it's going well, Hadleigh. And I know before you moved to Japan, you mentioned one of the reasons why was because of your family. I know you wanted to move a little bit closer to home, and for your daughter as well. So is that really great that you've been able to enjoy the experience, and your wife and your daughter are experiencing the culture as well?
Yeah, it has been outstanding. Like it's not quite like the travel is not quite happening at the moment with coronavirus backwards and forwards between countries like it is with the rest of the world. But hopefully that will change in the next wee while. But look, after we left Wales, we got 5 months back in New Zealand, which was nice to spend a good amount of time with both our families and to travel around a little bit too. And great for Ruby, and then come over here. As I said before, like both Susan and Ruby are really enjoying it. We've made some friends of Japanese locals as well, which has been outstanding. So they're pointing us in the right direction of nice cafes and different little touristy things that you can go and do, and a nice vineyard or strawberry picking. So stuff like that really helps for you to get settled into a different way of life, really, because it is a bit different not being able to speak the language too well or not at all. We've got a few lessons. We have lessons once a week, so they are getting better, but it's not. I wouldn't back myself too much with doing it. I can order a coffee, and that's about it, to be honest with you.
I was going to come on to the language, and because we had Freddie Burns on recently as well, Hadleigh, and he talked about he's learning slowly. He's also mentioned the food, so he said those were the two most important aspects of life over in Japan at the moment.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I could imagine that he'd be enjoying the food because it is outstanding. Like the experience of living here, but it's also the food is amazing. Like whether it's sushi or ramen, and just along those lines, tempura, all the good stuff. So yeah.
And just from a rugby point of view, Hadleigh, obviously you've experienced different cultures. You've played in Wales, you obviously South Africa, different continents, different countries. So is this kind of part of your adventure in your career? Because if you do look back at your career as someone who might not have played the game, you think he's travelled all over the world, and it seems like Japan's just the next step for you.
It's been awesome. Really enjoyed the World Cup while we're over here. Got a good 9 weeks or 10 weeks over here, and really enjoyed that experience. And then, so it was just something that we really wanted to do as a family and a young family, to do it again, and to come over here and immerse yourself in the culture and enjoy it as much as possible. And when Panasonic said they were interested, got really quite excited because they're a top team. They've got historically been a top team for a long time. Pretty prestigious club, and a lot of good rugby players there, as well as a lot of the Japanese squad. So it's we're trying to play an exciting brand of rugby and an attacking brand of rugby, and so on that side of it's been really good. And so then I've been very fortunate to be able to travel the world, play in South Africa, live in South Africa for 10 months, live in the UK and Wales for almost 6 years, and then to be living here now as well. So it's been it's a privilege to be able to do this as a job and to enjoy it as much as we do with the travel on the side has been amazing, really.
And I guess when you were experiencing the World Cup in Japan a couple of years ago, Hadleigh, did that make your decisions to move to the country a little bit easier because you knew kind of what to expect? And I guess you would have thought, there's some great parts about the culture, whether it's the food, whether it's the people, that you think, well, my family are going to love this. So I think that makes my decision a little bit easier than just kind of throwing yourself into the deep end and not really knowing what to expect.
Yeah, you're right there as well, because the people have been amazing. Like during the World Cup, they were amazing how they looked after us, how polite and kind they were, and supportive of all the teams, especially Wales as well. Like we had a great fan base, and at every game so far, there's been a Welsh flag or a scarf or a daffodil in the crowd. So I think George Cruz is a little bit gutted because there's no English flags at all over here at the moment. So, but like there was, yeah. So that was amazing, like with that side of it, and then. I've actually completely forgotten what you were saying. Sorry.
It was kind of just like were the moments during the World Cup where that stood out for you when making your decision to go to.
It did actually, like with a young family, and Suze and I really wanted to experience a little bit more. And then, I've always heard good things about Japan as well. So I've had a lot of mates that have come over from New Zealand or Australia that have come over and enjoyed their rugby over here. And so then So when you hear good things like that and good recommendations, so it does help to make your decision a little bit easier.
Yeah, and we'll come on to sort of your partnership with George Cruz a little bit later on, Hadleigh, because I know you've been obviously good friends so far during your time in Japan. But if we can just go on to Wales, if you don't mind, obviously the Six Nations for them concluded at the weekend, and I'm not sure whether you were able to catch the game on Saturday. It would have been Sunday morning for you, early hours, Hadleigh.
Yeah, we did. We watched a replay. So we actually we knew the result before we were watching it. So so even then, both my wife and I were just so nervous in the last 10 minutes, even though we knew what had happened. But I really feel for the boys and the management as well, because they had such a great tournament. They got off to a great start with the 2 wins, got themselves into a great position, and just kept building and playing well throughout the whole tournament under probably a little bit of pressure coming into the tournament, but they were playing fantastically, scoring some good tries, defending extremely well, and that was a really good game. Like it was, a great game, and so I do feel for them, gutted that they couldn't quite just get there and lose it in the 82nd minute. But also congratulations to France as well, and never giving up and scoring a couple of late tries there to clinch it. So. Yeah, gutted for the Welsh boys, but hopefully next year they'll be able to just keep building and getting better and better, because I'm quite excited for what they can do.
Yeah, and as you said there, it seemed for maybe 70 minutes it was nailed on that Wales were going to do that. I don't think many people expected to get the approach that Wales had to that game. It was very open, and they were breaking down that France defence really well in the first half. So as you say there, it must have been gutting to see the last 10 minutes develop as it did with the couple of yellow cards, and it just slipped away from them.
Yeah, it was, and it's also like you said at the start. I think there were 4 tries in the first 15 or 20 minutes, so it was great. It was good attacking rugby from both sides, and unfortunately, yeah, just kind of fell away there in the last 10 minutes, and they couldn't quite hold on in the end there. So it would have been. I'm sure they'll be very proud, and I'm sure the people in Wales will be very proud of what they've done as well. And hopefully, they'll just keep building and building. And I know a few boys will probably be hoping to make the Lions squad, or they just for the Welsh team when they go on tour. I think pretty sure it's to Argentina this year, their summer tour. So I hope they just keep building and doing well, and look forward to that tour and going from there.
Yeah, and I mean, you experienced a lot of success with a lot of those boys. Hadleigh, only a couple of years ago, winning the Grand Slam yourself in 2019 and reaching semi-finals of the World Cup. Have you been able to maybe speak to the guys during the championship, or any WhatsApp messages after Saturday's game?
There's been a few like FaceTimes and chats. The only one I've talked to after the game was Ken Owens. We keep in touch quite a bit, but. Look, no, you kind of just leave them to themselves to make sure that they're preparing well, and I'm sure that they'll be talking with their family. And I'm sure over the next little while that we'll have a few phone calls or WhatsApp messages about how the game went, how they're feeling. But we'll just leave it for a little bit. So yeah, it might be a bit raw at the moment.
Yeah, and you mentioned there. Hopefully the boys did the Welsh public proud, and I'm absolutely sure they did. It's an amazing performance and joining the Six Nations. But I don't know if you would have seen this, Hadleigh. I might be putting you on the spot here, but Wales released a tweet last night about some of the social media comments that directed at some of the players, which is quite frankly appalling considering what they've done for the country, not only this season, but over the last decade or so, winning Grand Slams under Warren as well. And just I want to get your thoughts on that as a player, because you put your heart and soul into a game for 80 minutes, and then some people, some idiots, decide to message and directly comment on tweets and directly at people in on Twitter, and it's just appalling that we keep seeing this in the game.
I've only seen a little bit of it, but I've seen Wales did put out. And look, it's certainly it's not called for really after a game or in any way of life either, whether it's in the workforce or in the family life. There's no place for abuse like that or in any form of life. So hopefully I think it's quite good that they've put it out there, and then hopefully people just become more aware that if you do put something online, that it is up there and it's there for everyone to see. And you just got to be careful of how with social media these days, especially because it's everyone can see what you're writing, and you don't want to see that kind of abuse being put out to anyone or any individual in any way of life. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a slight sour note to what was a cracking game, as we said there, Hadleigh. But just back onto the rugby and onto the Six Nations as a whole for Wales. I mean, Wayne Pivac said on Thursday that even finishing second would be a good step forward for the nation after a difficult autumn. But of course, Wales can still win the championship on Friday, depending on how France and Scotland get on in their final Six Nations game. But how pleased are you, Hadleigh, to see sort of Wayne's been given time to shape and mould the team? Because I know before the tournament you hoped Wales were going to bounce back, and I think regardless of what happens in France, Scotland, they certainly have taken strides forward.
Yeah, they have. They definitely have, and rep for Wayne and his management team, know them well through the Scarlets and Wayne before that as well. So it's great that they've had a good campaign. I know he was probably under a little bit of pressure coming in at TRU as well, but he stuck to his guns. From all accounts, from what I've heard from boys within the camp, they've enjoyed this campaign under the circumstances as well, because with coronavirus, I know every team is under the same circumstance. It's what you kind of make of the environment's a little bit different, but I think coming from the Welsh boys, I've really enjoyed the environment and what the coaches and management have done there. So I'm very pleased for them and for the players as well. Just to, it was a tough autumn campaign. I know that for those players involved, and just absolutely stoked that they've had a great Six Nations. As you said, hopefully results go Wales' way, and they'll be winning the Six Nations. They've got the Triple Crown now, but winning the Six Nations, and yeah, it would. I guess it would be nice after the weekend's result that if they did manage to get that, and so I think that they can be very happy with the way they've gone too.
Yeah. I know you mentioned there, obviously, Wayne's and the coaches a bit from your time with the Scarlets, and obviously you achieved success with the Scarlets as well, Hadleigh, winning the Pro 12 title in 2017. And Wayne said actually on Thursday, he referred to his time at the Scarlets, and he said, well, it took me a while to get the machine rolling there, and he applied that to Wales at the moment. So do you think he is the right man to take Wales going forward? And I think he's probably justified in some of the decisions he made in the autumn during the Six Nations, because we've seen a lot of people coming through the squad, and there seems to be that depth now that Wales can rely on.
Look, I think it's gone really well, this Six Nations. I think the players at the Scarlets really enjoyed playing under his management and under his style, with Stephen Jones there as well. And so then hopefully, sorry, my baby's just gone on the monitor, but in the background, I don't know if you can yourself, just turn it on mute. But the players really enjoy playing his brand of rugby and what he's trying to do there. So look, I think hopefully, he continues to just keep improving and getting that side going as well as it can, because it's got a lot of potential there. It's got a lot of depth, a lot of experience, and a lot of very good players, and some young talent, rising talent coming through too. So I think Welsh Rugby is in a good position at the moment. So hopefully it can just keep getting better and better, and just keep improving.
Yeah, and I think we saw both sides of that on the weekend, Hadleigh, in terms of that young players coming through and some of the older heads, if you like. I mean, it was the most experienced side Wales have ever put out in the history. But one man who has lit up the Six Nations has been Louis Rees-Zammit, as you mentioned there, in terms of the depth of the squad. He potentially is going to be knocking on the door for the British and Irish Lions as well. How impressed have you been with him? He just seems to be the start of hopefully a new generation for Wales.
He's no substitute for pace, is there, really? So, and he's got plenty of it. So, look, it's been good. I was fortunate that got to meet him and play. Unfortunately, didn't play with him, but trained with him in the last Six Nations. And he's a talent, isn't he? He's got he can kick, he can run, ball play as well. He's a big boy too, so he's got so he can beat defenders or use that power too. So I think he's got a massive future, and I think a great weapon for Wales to have. And I can't comment on the Lions stuff. You never know what coaches are thinking there. But look, he's had a great campaign, and hopefully, I wish him all the best with that too.
Yeah, and one of the things that's been really positive for Wales, Hadleigh, during this tournament as well has been kind of the partnership that Jonathan Davies and George North have put together in the centres. I think a lot of people have been surprised when George was moved into the 13 shirt, Jonathan switched to the 12 shirt. I mean, have you been surprised how well that's worked, knowing both players as you do?
No, I haven't. I think because both players have got a huge amount of experience, both players are very good at what they do. Great professionals as well, and the way they build up to the week and their analysis and their work prep and what they do, and they're getting their bodies ready and their mind ready for the game. George, as a 28-year-old, 100 tests for his country, what an achievement, a great achievement for him that he can be very proud of. But he's a big boy, can get over the game line, but he's also got a lot of pace there. He's good defensively. I think he'll just keep improving in that 13 jersey with his defence too. And then Foxy, I think he can put any number on his back and he's going to do well for his country, isn't he? He's got a lot of experience there. He's a world-class player. He's proven himself for Wales and for the Lions for the last two tournaments there, last two tours that the Lions have gone on. So, look, it's been great to see Foxy put a few games together too, because I know he's had a couple of injuries going into the Six Nations. And look, he's an old head in that team, and he's kind of experience that you want around, a calming influence, and a player that I'm sure George and him are talking a lot about that 13 jersey too, and I'm sure Foxy will be sharing and helping him out, and also enjoying and relishing the opportunity that he's had in the 12 jersey and probably getting his hands on the ball a little bit more.
Yeah, and not to put you on the spot here, Hadleigh, but you mentioned obviously Jonathan and George, and we talked about Lewis Rees-Zammit there, but how many of these current Wales players have really put the hand up for Lions selection, do you think?
No, Jonathan. Oh, look.
But you can't pick the whole team either.
Look, they've had a great tournament. They've had a good tournament. So you'd think there's a number of players there that have put their hands up, and not just for squad members, but probably for starting positions as well. I guess there's a few games that have to happen between now and then with the warm up to the Lions games as well when they're in the squad. So look, I think there'll be a good chunk, and hopefully they just go well. And I wish them all the best. Hopefully the Lions tour goes ahead as well. So. I know there's a lot of reports and rumours about that, so I'm sure that they'll be working and trying to sort everything out so that it can go ahead, and I'm sure it'll be a great series against South Africa. Yeah,
and I'm sure Alan Wynne-Jones will pluck up the energy to pull on another Lions shirt. It's remarkable of what he's been doing as well, hasn't it, Hadleigh?
Yeah, he's immense. He is. He's a couple of players. He's a good handful of players in there that have been around a long time. You could say Ken Irons, Alan Wynne, Dan Biggar, Justin Tipperick, Toby, Foxy and George, they're players there. But the thing that I love about Ken and Alan Wynne is that they're one club men, would do anything for that Welsh jersey. So passionate with the way that every time they get to go onto that field and lead by example. He trains, well, they both train like the house down, and so then like that they wouldn't ask anyone to do anything if they don't do it themselves first. So for both of them, they've both had great campaigns. Alan Wynne, he's a great leader. You'd follow him anywhere. So, I wish both of those boys all the best with selection if going forward with that Lions tour as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just listening to you, Hadleigh, it sounds like you've been able to keep abreast of what's been going on with Wales across the Six Nations. Now, I do know in an interview you did before the start of the Six Nations, I think you and George Cruz, who's obviously a teammate of the Wild Knights, were having a few technical problems of getting the Six Nations televised and getting it tuned into your tellies over in Japan. And you managed to crack that problem?
Yeah, we've got it all sorted out now, which is quite nice. It's still on quite early in the morning though, so we have to record it or watch replay. But George actually hasn't paid me. So in the autumn, I had to give him. We had a little bet on the game, and I paid up straight away. And it's been about 4 weeks or 3 weeks now, and he still hasn't paid me my bet. So I'm going to have to hit him up on that as well. But no, we're watching all the games, and so he comes over to. He lives about 150 metres away, so nice. Which is quite nice with a lot of the other either New Zealanders and Australians over there. So. So it's quite good having them quite close, and so they come over and watch the games, or we go there. So it's a good bit of banter between George and I about how England and Wales have been going, and I think I've got the upper hand at the moment, which is quite nice, especially seeing England in 5th position, I think it was at the end.
Yeah, you don't need to remind me, Hadleigh, it's fine. I was going to say, did you watch the England-Wales game together then?
We did, yeah, and then again, we knew the result to that.
Yeah.
But even George were watching it, and I was watching it and enjoying it, and he was watching and kind of pulling a bit of hair out. But look, you win some, you lose some, don't you? So
yeah, and just a couple more from me, Hadleigh, on to sort of Japan and obviously the Wild Knights as well. You mentioned obviously with George there, but there's a whole influx of new stars that have gone over to Japan. You mentioned the New Zealand and Australian contingent. We mentioned Freddie Burns, who's playing in the league below the top league at the moment. But it just seems that it's an easy assumption to make for people on the outside to go, well, they're moving there for the money. But everyone I've spoken to so far who has a connection with one of the players over there, or speaking to yourself, speaking to Freddie, it seems like the experience is just like maybe a once-in-a-lifetime thing. So is it great to see this influx of new stars and the top league continue to grow, Hadleigh?
It is. It's awesome. It's outstanding. Every week, every team you're playing against, you're catching up with someone like Owen Williams and TJ Perenara were in the team that I played against last week. And so it was nice. Played with TJ in Wellington and with Owen with Wales. So it was great to catch up with them. And look, it is a really exciting a league to play in. A lot of attacking rugby, attacking mindset. I've been really impressed with the boys, especially the Wild Knights boys, with their skill set, their work ethic as well, and the training ground, the way they get ready for the weeks ahead and training, and the coaching has been outstanding too. We've got a young coaching team under Robbie Deans, but who's got a lot of experience, but underneath him it's a young coaching team, but they've been outstanding. They're great guys. Even though there is a language barrier there a little bit, you get on well. Rugby is kind of a language that you can talk as well, or walk through and understand each other. So in terms of that, it's an exciting league. There are some higher scores in it, but she's quite an open game. So it is an enjoyable, very enjoyable game to play and enjoying it and enjoying the experience of living here too. So it's I'm sure all the boys, and you hear good things from all the boys when you're talking to them after the games when you do play each other.
Yeah, and it's been a great start for the Wild Knights as well, Hadleigh, just to round things off. 4 wins from 4, that's right. And I know you've been involved in a couple of tries and a few try involvements as well. So looking forward to sort of what the rest of the season holds.
Yeah, very much so. Like, it's been a great start. It's 4 from 4, and we've had this weekend off. Our younger boys, squad boys, had a game against Mitsubishi this weekend, just as a friendly fixture. But it's going well. Enjoying the style that we're playing. We've got a couple of. We're playing Alex Good this coming weekend with NEC, so that'll be a tough game. We're playing in the middle of Tokyo, and then the following weekend is against Kobe, who's the team just below. Well, we're the 2 top teams in our pool at the moment, so in our conference. So that'll be a tough game down in Osaka or in Kobe, which is close to Osaka. So, but in terms of us, like, the Wild Knights, we're looking to play a good brand, an exciting brand. I think the boys are just really enjoying it. It's a great bunch of boys. Everyone's getting on well, and just looking forward to playing every weekend, which is nice. So, yeah.
And as Hadleigh mentions there, he's going to be up against Alex Good's NEC Green Rockets, I believe, on the weekend. And do, as Hadleigh says there as well, do check out the highlights, because it is some incredibly open rugby, some great tries being scored. I know you can find them on YouTube, so if you fancy seeing how Hadleigh's getting on, they are all on YouTube from the Japanese top league. Also this week on TRU, please keep tuned, because we've got Six Nations reaction. Obviously, Gary Heatley will be building up to France versus Scotland. Joe Harvey has chatted to England's Jack Noel about his recovery from injury, as well as the Premiership. We've got Championship coverage coming as well. So a lot to get stuck into this week on Talking Rugby Union. But it's been a pleasure, Hadleigh, to chat to you today on TRU Talks. Really pleased to hear how well it's going for you and your family over Japan, and all the best going forward. Cheers,
Chris. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and all the best to you as well going forward, mate.
Thanks very much to Hadleigh, and that's been another episode of TRU Talks.